Hey, Free Spirits, welcome back. Today's guest is Laura Bratton, someone whose entire life has required courage long before she ever taught it to others. At the age of 9, Laura was diagnosed with a rare eye disease and spent the next decade gradually losing her sight, becoming blind as a teenager. What followed was not just a physical transition, but a deep emotional reckoning with grief, identity, confidence, and purpose. Today, Laura is the author of Harnessing Courage, a keynote speaker, coach, and founder of UB Global, empowering others to navigate change with grit and gratitude. Laura, welcome to Flying Upstream.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
I'm so excited that you're here. Before we get into your story, I'm curious to know, how do you describe who you are today? Not what you do, but who you are.
If I only had one word, it would be courageous.
That's a great word. That's a pretty powerful word. And I love to start with that question because it also kind of touches on not just who you are today, but helping us understand that there has been a transition to get you to that point. Now, when you were diagnosed at 9 years old with a rare eye disease, what do you remember about the moment that you realized your life was not going to follow the path that you imagined?
So, my honest first reaction when we walked out of the doctor's office and literally still in the parking garage, like I still vividly remember this moment. My parents still remember this moment. I looked at each of my parents and I said, "Well, can we go to Starbucks now? And can I get a peach tea?" And their whole lives had just changed before them. And all I cared about was being in Atlanta and getting a Starbucks tea. So I say that to say, as a 9 year old, I could not emotionally comprehend the news my parents had just received. I cognitively heard it, but could not emotionally grasp because, in my 9 year old perspective, it was summertime. I could see now, wasn't always going to see. My emotional reaction to that doctor's appointment took place as I started to lose a significant amount of sight. So during those 4 years of high school, I would lose a significant amount of sight and then it would plateau for a few months or a year. And then I would lose a significant amount of sight. And what I mean by that is, for a while I had really good depth perception and then I would lose my depth perception. So I could tell there's a stairwell, but I didn't know, was it 2 feet or 2 inches away? So clearly that's not a safe way to walk. So,
Right.
and I would go from transition of being able to read print to large print to I can't read print at all. So as I started making this major transition, that's when the emotional reaction to that doctor's appointment happened. Clearly, it happened for my parents in the moment because they're able to realize what the future meant. But for me, it was in those moments of physically losing the sight.
That makes sense. I can certainly appreciate what you're saying, that as a little kid, it's, kids live in the moment. They're so,
Literally.
yes, and that's one of the beautiful things, is that they are just present all the time. And I love that all you wanted to do was go to Starbucks because that was exciting and fun for you, and being in Atlanta, like, I love that. And also having those kind of micro moments over the next decade, realizing that everything's fine, it's not fine, right? And then
Literally.
processing, in the moment when things were happening as you reached each of those new milestones. And um, and sorry, I lost my train of thought there, but
No, that's when the anxiety, that's when the depression, that's when the intense grief started. So that my emotional reaction did not start until, like you said, I started, everything was fine, and then okay, it's not. And the grief, I cannot quite put into words the depth of it. Because remember, I'm a teenager, the normal teenage hormones, right? Like, remember, teenage girl in high school, right? That's hard enough. And then you have to adjust to something that changes literally your whole world, how you do everything with the school, at home, in every type of situation. So the emotional response was deep anxiety because it was fear of the future, fear of the unknown. And that manifested in constant panic attacks. And then the deep depression because I was so sad about what I had lost. I knew just how easy life was a year ago with sight.
Mm-hmm.
I knew how 6 months ago that task took me 5 minutes, and now 6 months later, I need help and it takes me an hour to complete.
Mm-hmm.
So, just that deep depression of how easy it used to be with sight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm curious to know, what was community like for you at this time? So, did you have other people in your life that were also losing vision or had gone through something similar? Did you feel really alone? Like, looking back, what was that aspect like?
So, community is the reason I'm still here today and I'm doing what I'm doing. And I mean that very, very literal. I don't mean that like cliche, oh, yeah, community is the reason I'm here. Like, I mean that very literal. The support around me is the reason I was able to develop courage, the reason I'm able to do the work that I do today, that I wrote the book that I did, that is only because community. So, absolutely not. I did not have anybody in my world that was losing their sight or even with vision problems that, like glasses couldn't correct, right? I wish I did have that. But my family and I, we didn't know anyone who was blind. We had no idea. We had to do research and find out where are they in the world, right? Like clearly they're
Right.
out there. So unfortunately, I didn't have that. What I did have was a community that believed in me when I did not believe in myself. So
Hmm.
as I described that anxiety, those panic attacks, that deep depression, as I was feeling those feelings, I had the support around me continuing to believe in me. And thankfully, it was not through their words, it was through their actions. Because the reason I say that, if it was through their words, I would not have believed them. I would have been like, oh, be quiet. Oh, you're not walking in my shoes, like easy for
Yeah.
you to say. But they put into actions. And a practical example is my parents would remind me when I'm so anxious and depressed, Laura, all we have to do is get through today. All we have to do is get through school today, and then we'll figure out homework tonight.
Mm. Aw.
So that taught me, and they said that over and over and over. I'm not a quick learner. So they had to say that over and over for me to realize, yes, this life is overwhelming. Yes, this is uncertain. And I can live day by day, moment by moment in the present.
Yeah. I,
And that was an incredible gift.
I want to call out two things. So one is that you mentioned that you had this community, however, it did not include anybody like you,
Right.
right? And I think
And
that's
that
pretty
was,
significant.
yes, that's where the loneliness came in.
Yes.
You nailed it perfectly when you said, the loneliness. That's 100% the loneliness, because it still was like, nobody gets me.
Hmm.
Nobody understands the depth of this pain.
Right. Right. And even with having the most supportive, loving, caring family,
Right.
still nobody is walking in your shoes and
Right.
living it day to day. They can
Right.
help you and they feel bad for you, but
Right.
it's not them. Yeah.
Right. Is not them.
Yeah. And before your blindness, you described yourself as fearless, outgoing, someone who fit the mold. How did losing your sight disrupt that identity for you?
It took that identity away. It took that identity away for multiple years because that fearless turned to depression. That like just kind of not carefree, like nothing matters, but carefree, just like living in the present. Oh, that looks dangerous. I'll go try that. Like that type of spirit that I had as a child that was all shut down because it was literal, pure mental survival. Even with, I loved how you phrased it, even with the incredible resources around me, still the mental, physical struggle every single day to get through the day. I mean, I was laughing with someone this week. A Southern girl trying to learn Spanish in Braille when she's just learned Braille is not easy. And that was the easy part. The hard part was the emotional part. Because all I wanted was to fit in and be normal and make sure my jeans were as cute as the other girls' jeans. And so
Yeah, of
all
course.
those normal, am I wearing the right jewelry, the right earrings, necklace, like do look like everyone else? That's just magnified a million times with the level of grief.
Yeah. Yeah, and despite all of this, you still went to a great college. You know, which is incredible, and you said that it was not a normal experience. What did it mean to keep moving forward in a world that's clearly not designed for you?
So that's the gift. Again, that's the gift of community in a totally different way. The gift of college was, and going to Arizona State gave me the community of diversity. It gave me the community of, you're not the only person on campus with a guide dog. Like, it's really not a big deal to have a student walk in the student union or walk in your dorm and have a guide dog. Like, everyone doesn't stop when you walk in the room and turn and stare at you and just like, oh my God, how'd you get out of bed in the morning? You're just another college student. So because the campus is so large and so diverse, that was healing for me. That was deeply, deeply healing because I was just another college student. And so that's why I said community in a different form. That support came just truly by diversity, was normalizing and healing. And that's what helped restored that fearless spirit. That's when I felt that fearless spirit start to return. That's when my, just that, again, that carefree, not meaning I don't care about anything, but just that, let's go take a risk, right? Let risk of being like living in life without sight. That's when that spirit began to breathe again and began to live again, was as I became comfortable in my own skin. And that was only because I was in a community that accepted me.
You know, I've heard that in our society, we have to choose between authenticity, like being our true self, and connection. So it's hard to have both, right? You can either have like good friends and family that love you, but you don't feel like you can really be your true self, or you can be your true self, but nobody will like who you are.
Right.
And to have both of them is truly the dream, you know, to be in a community and a space where people are like, sure, you know, that you fit in enough that no one raises an eyebrow when you walk in the room, as you said, but also that people actually accept you. They really see you for who you truly are, not just the external physical body, but who you are deep down as a person. Like that, you can't ask for more in life, right? Than having those two together.
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that because it makes me think. I can vividly remember in those classes that freshman fall when like professors or other students would ask me a question about, whatever the subject was of the class. And it like shocked me because like, oh my gosh, you're asking about more of my blindness? Like, that I can talk I can talk about other subjects in life than being blind. Like, I truly remember being shocked by that. Like, wow, they actually are asking me a question. Like, this is great. So yes, that's 100% my experience. Thank you for saying that.
That's so beautiful. That makes me happy to hear that was your experience. And over time, grit kind of became a source of strength for you. How do you personally define grit based on your lived experience?
So first, I want to say how I don't define it anymore, and then I'll make it very clear why I now define it how I do. So in those first years, I thought grit was pushing through, don't feel your emotions, get over it, sweep it under the rug, say you're happy and positive all the time, and just move on. Like, don't show the world and don't show yourself that you're suffering.
Right.
What I've learned grit is through my lived experience, because that made me more depressed and more anxious. That made the grief worse. I learned that grit is having that end goal. So for me, that end goal is living life as a person without sight in a sighted world. And then taking that large goal and breaking it down to small moments that we can achieve. And what those moments look like is, I'm deeply anxious right now. I'm going to spend a few minutes focusing on my breath, and then I'm going to choose to make that hard phone call or send that difficult email or do that next task, whatever that next task might be. So it's acknowledging how we're feeling, validating that feeling, and then still choosing to move forward, even though you don't feel good, even though it's not, okay, I'm going to wait till my anxiety goes away and then I'm going to move forward. It's acknowledging the anxiety and then choosing to move forward, believe in yourself, even when you're anxious.
That's pretty powerful. I especially appreciate where you're saying acknowledging the anxiety and still moving forward, and differentiating that from your original definition, which was just pushing forward, who cares, just do it, not healthy.
Right. And I'm living proof it was not healthy. I mean, truly, my physical health was worse. My mental health was way worse. Yeah. I mean, I'm living proof that is not healthy.
Yeah. And I know gratitude is another core pillar in your work. How did gratitude show up for you when life felt unfair or overwhelming?
So just like grit, I want to say how I thought I thought gratitude was, and then again that'll make it clear on why I practice gratitude so much now. Again, I thought gratitude, just like grit, was that being positive, smile. I'm good all the time. Life is good. What are you talking about? Why would I have problems? I'm just going blind, right? Like, I thought gratitude was covering up the pain. I thought gratitude was not acknowledging the sadness, the anger, the loneliness, the grief. What I realized gratitude is being thankful and appreciative and recognizing what we do have in the midst of life. When life is going well, when life is not going well, when life is mundane, in all situations, recognizing what we do have. So a very practical example, again, in my world, gratitude is not me at the end of the day saying, oh, I'm so grateful for this day, that, this blindness is a wonderful gift and everyone should try it. And this is easy and wonderful. Rather, gratitude looks like, I'm grateful that today my guide dog helped me navigate the world. So it's not being grateful for the blindness, it's being grateful for what helps me navigate through the blindness.
Was there a moment in your journey where you realized you were no longer just surviving, but actually beginning to live again and truly thrive?
Honestly, it was because of a series of countless moments. So, yes, receiving my first guide dog gave me so much confidence back and just a sense of literal, physical, obviously, independence, but just that emotional confidence. But even that, I don't want to all paint the picture. I received my first guide dog and then life was smooth and easy and I always moved forward and was strong and happy and fearless. It's still a day-to-day choice that every single day, even now as a 41-year-old, I have to choose that every day.
I like that you said you have to choose it every day. And I think that's something that for everyone that gets overlooked, because the truth is everybody on the planet can choose happiness, can choose gratitude, can choose, to see life how they want to see it, right?
Yes.
Even when things are not going the way you want, when you're in grief and sorrow and frustration, all the things, there's still always a way to find just one tiny thing to be grateful for. Even if you look out the window and you see a tree, right? grateful for
Right.
this beautiful tree out my window, anything, right? And I
Be
think
grateful the day's over.
that, right,
I
yes.
mean, I've had so many times I'm like, oh my God, this day is over. Like I survived. I get to go to bed now. I mean, truly, that's all I could come up with for the day, and learning that that's enough.
Yeah, I love that. And I so appreciate you've taken everything that you've learned on your journey, and now you are a keynote speaker, a coach, and an ordained minister. How does your spiritual grounding influence the way that you are now holding space for others?
My spiritual grounding gives me the strength to know that I'm a beloved creation that is worthy and that is enough regardless of the situation. So, having that belief, having that foundation gives me the space to hold the space to also see that in others
Mm-hmm.
and
I
also help others as they go through difficult times, difficult transitions, difficult situations. Being that presence to hold the space, sit with them in the pain, and guide them through that pain, reminding them you're still enough. You're still you. You still have meaning and purpose in this world.
That's so beautiful. And I really like how you phrasing that, because probably what doesn't get said enough is that for you to be able to do that and hold space for others in the way that you are, you had to go through your journey.
Yes.
And if you had not, if your life had gone in a different way, you would not be able to do that the way that you can today.
There's no way. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no way.
I love that. And when you look at your life now, how do you understand purpose differently than you did before losing your sight?
I understand purpose now, again, specifically for me, taking the pain, taking the good, taking all of that and pulling out the threads, what is helpful and what does empower other people. So I don't just look at purpose as this is my 9 to 5 job. What this meaning anything basically, like my purpose is my 9 to 5 job. My purpose is how I live every moment, is being that presence and having that mindset of gratitude when things are going well, when things are not, when a friend calls me and having a great day, when a friend calls me and having a terrible day. In all things, living out my purpose just in who I am, not in just what I do.
I love that. I love that. That's so beautiful. Laura, you've shared so much with us today, and we're winding down. I've got one last question for you. For someone listening who feels like their life has gone completely off script, what permission do you want to give them today?
Permission to sit and validate their pain. And the reason I say that is because in the depths of my anxiety, the depths of my depression, the depths of my grief, I want to go from that place to the end story of healing and empowered and moving forward. If I had just sat with the pain and validated the pain and let myself acknowledge how hard it is, the healing would have been much quicker.
Mm-hmm.
So I cannot say enough. And every single person I work with, that's the first step, is giving people permission to validate their pain and realize their pain is so hard for them, rather than saying, oh, well, it could be worse. Oh, other people have it harder. No, validate your feelings, your emotions, your situation.
That's really beautiful, and I think it's something that we don't do enough. You're right. Most people say, "Oh, it could be worse," or "I'm fine, it's fine, everything's fine." But you're right, kind of taking that moment to say, "You know what? This is a really tough time for me, and I'm in pain and grief and depression," and just acknowledging that, and hearing yourself say it to yourself, right? Not just somebody else, but really internalizing that is huge.
Believing that. Yes.
Yeah, and believing it. Yes, absolutely. Wow, really powerful words to end on. Laura, thank you so much for sharing your story with such honesty, humility, and depth. Your journey is truly a powerful reminder that adversity does not erase who we are, it reveals us. And what stands out most is your message that even when life does not go as planned, we are still here, we are still ourselves, and meaning is still possible. Laura, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for the opportunity.